Welcome everyone. Lots to talk about. Not really. This is Our Android Week with Alan Furstenberg in New York, grouchy as ever. Bruce Turner in Lynchburg, Virginia. Duke Carrico in Kingsport, Tennessee. Cadeus Kalut in Newport Beach, California. Used to wear a collar. And in Menifee, California, Pam Adger. This is Our Android Week. Good to have you with us. I'm Dan McDermott, the guy who knows the least of the panel. So, okay, Alan is joining us, and not only is he grouchy, but he's a little under the weather, so it could be really epic. I'm not going to cross him. Please comment live. You can also tweet us with the hashtag OurAndroidWeek, and we will see those, and we'll put them on the screen. And technology happens. So, anyway, there you go. Okay, so some hardware coming out, or I guess some of it's out, if not all of it. I'm not sure, but
No, none of it.
okay, so that's the nicest he'll be all night, folks. So the next, we're going to talk about three hardware devices: the Nexus 6, the Nexus 9, and the Nexus Player. And I think Cadeus is our resident gadget guru because he literally owns all gadgets ever made, from Grace Hopper's KitchenAid mixer till today.
Who's Grace Hopper?
All right,
Did
so
not say that, Cadeus.
you don't try him, Cadeus. Don't try him. You'll walk into the show and you'll crawl back. All right, so tell us, Cadeus, your thoughts on the Nexus 6. I think you have a prototype probably propping up your table for the last couple weeks.
Who knows? So the Nexus 6 is the new version, where it's the phone of choice for me always. I tend to navigate and gravitate around the Nexus. And so, yes, that basically comes out. It's going to be more expensive than usual. It's $649, which is almost double what it used to be charged for. However, at this point, it's got a bigger screen. It's going to be 5.9 inches. It's got a super fast charging battery, which I like. I like the fact that the Snapdragon processor lets it charge at, I want to say, 15 minutes will get you about 6 hours. You think that's good? You think that's good, Alan?
I think that's damn good.
I think that's good. And then there's a lot of stuff on this phone. Actually,
Now, again,
we
just
got a good camera.
are they going to have a version that will work for folks like me on Sprint, or is this going to be a T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon
This
thing?
is actually, and it's one of the things that I'm upset about. It's actually multiple devices, or multiple service providers is what it's going to be. And the issue with this is that I'm an AT&T subscriber, and I never like having a phone that their network recognizes, only because I like to do different things like tether and stuff like that, and I like to also keep my unlimited plan. And so having a device that recognizes, it's going to be recognized by their network, forces me to not be able to do those things. So now I have to pay for a tethering device of some sort, whether it's a hotspot. So that's kind of a downfall. But aside from that, the carriers are going to be carrying it, and it makes me wonder what type of stuff is going to be piled onto those phones because the carriers are going to be carrying it. So that's another question that I have that we probably won't know until November sometime.
Carriers always be carrying.
So, but yeah, the camera improvement is also a really, really good thing, because for the longest time we've had horrible cameras on the Nexus. So that's been one of the bad things. And so now when it doesn't matter to me, we have a 13 megapixel camera. So, so yeah, but I'm definitely in love with this device. I am going to be sitting in front of the computer clicking like it's Google I/O time, trying to get in to get one of these. So I'm definitely getting the white one that matches everything I like. So
Is it just, what about the video capabilities of it?
they didn't really talk much about it. They didn't really say. We can only guess. They didn't really go into how it's going to be. The only thing they said about the camera is that it's got the ring and the flash and the 13 megapixels. So
See, I'm not a big megapixel fan. And Craig turned me on to this idea that the higher the megapixel count, the poorer the low light performance, because the pixels are so small. And I get that. Like my Note 2, I did a video recently making pizza in my new pizza oven, right? And that was on my Note 2, and it was really good quality. It was kind of like, not dark yet, not, but I'm not a huge, like, must-have fancy megapixels, but the video quality is a big thing, and I think that I'd love to be able to see something that can match or beat what the iPhone's putting out.
A lot of people are complaining about the size of the phone. I don't think that's gonna bother me much. I haven't been totally against it. Like I said, I carry my Nexus 7 in my back pocket for the last year that I've had it. So it's to have a 6-inch phone or 5.9-inch phone is not a big deal to me. So I know I'm definitely only gonna go back to carrying one device again with this phone. I think I'll be able to do everything I need now out of this one phone because of the battery size and how long and how quick you can charge it. So.
What do you think is that sweet spot, Cadeas? My Note 2 is 5.5 inches, same as the iPhone, not the Plus, but the regular one. And then there are bigger phones like the Samsung Mega, which is absurdly huge, and the Plus I think is, I forget how much more, 6 or whatever it is, 6 something.
There is no sweet spot on a phone. It's going to be relative to the person using it. So
Exactly.
there's no real sweet spot.
No, that's exactly it. And I think that's one of the things I find most disappointing about the Nexus 6 is that they're kind of saying, okay, we're going to do the same thing Apple is doing and push out this ultra-large phone because we think that's the way phones are going, and kind of leave the Nexus 5 and Nexus 4 in the dust. I mean, I understand what the Nexus program is supposed to be for. It's not supposed to be to provide a complete lineup of phones. It's to kind of be the flagship, but to say, okay, we're going to be the flagship, and the 4 and 5-inch phones, we'll let somebody else do it. I don't know. I think that's kind of a cop-out.
But do you think that stance has kind of changed as far as it being really the developer's phone, and more now it's becoming that phone that everybody's got to measure up to? I think that's what's changed this time around.
I think given the price, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the stats too. I mean the display is a QHD display, so I mean like it's starting to say, okay, now we're not going to be just that phone that people buy the program for. Now we're going to be one of the. I mean, for them to get the carriers involved in it tells me that they're really trying to get this phone in front of everybody versus, hey, this is a phone you program with.
Yeah, but they said that about the Galaxy Nexus too, and that was a fiasco.
That was yeah.
I mean,
I got two-ish. Go ahead, Alan, and then
they've always tried to make the case that the Nexus line is also for regular people. They haven't done a very good job of it, and I don't think they do in this one either.
Why? Because of the size?
Because of the fact that it's the only size. I don't have a problem with the size. I don't like them that big, but I don't have a problem with the size. I have a problem with the fact that on one hand, they're trying to say the Nexus devices are devices for everybody, unless you don't like 6-inch large phones.
Oh, so what Kadea said was the key. He said, I'm going to be a one-device guy with this phone. And my beef, again, if you're sitting on the couch and you're relaxing in your pajamas, then a 14-inch phone would be fine because you've got both hands and you're watching YouTube videos or reading a book from Amazon or Play or whatever, and a larger screen's better. And there are big advantages to a larger screen, obviously, especially as you get old like me and you can't see. So the disadvantage, if you want a single, a multi-purpose device, the problem is one-handed operation, and the problem is not dropping it out of your hand. Forcing you to have two hands in order to safely hold it. I famously dropped my Note 2, and now I have a refurb. So that was Steve Jobs' biggest gripe about a bigger screen. He was really into one-handed operation, and one thing that Apple did was their phones were tall and skinny. So would that make sense to you, Cadeas, where you could go with a taller phone, but it would be more like not like a brick, but shaped.
You have to keep in mind that it's based on use case, and so it's going to be different for everybody. Generally, people with these bigger screen phones are being made specifically to consume content, watch videos. And
Apple has conceded that because historically, they have had one phone, and this is the new iPhone, and this is the new iPhone. This is the next iPhone, but there was one hot iPhone that all the Craig ships had to get. And now they've come out with two, acknowledging what you're saying, that there is no sweet spot per se. But when I say what is the sweet spot, in other words, what's the thing that most people are going to get? Because more people are gravitating toward single device use cases, because that's why we're seeing tabloid Freudian slip, tablet sales diminish or grow less or whatever you want to call it, because more people are getting these phablets and fewer people are buying tablets, or at least the pace has lessened, the pace of growth. I mean, I'm not sure which is accurate. I think even iPad sales are not growing at the robust rate that they were, because more people are getting these large phones instead, because you don't need a big tablet. Does that make sense? Or
the use case on the tablet is kind of different. So it goes off the individual's use case. So for you, what you may use a tablet for, I may not be interested in using that tablet for it. I mean, it's just going to be, everybody's going to have a different use case. There's not a one-size-fit-all phone anymore. The Motorola Razrs and the Nokia 3390 days are over. There's no phone that's going to fit everybody. Everybody has their own taste. Some people are going to complain that this phone's too big. Some people are going to say it's too small and they want the Mega. I mean, like, it's go ahead, Alan.
No, I'm agreeing with you. And
Yeah,
I think that's an incredibly important point, is that, and this is the good thing about the Android world, is that you have choice. You've got a wide range of choices, and I just feel like that with the Nexus 6, they're saying, maybe we don't want you to have a choice after all. I don't think.
You got to keep in mind that Google looks at it as Android, not necessarily Nexus. So this is just one. They've always released the one phone for the entire gear. So they've never had multiple sizes and multiple things. They've just decided this time to go massive.
Well, but here's the thing, Kadeas. No, they've never released more than one phone at a time before. This is true. But if they're moving more towards making these phones consumer-level devices, the suggestion that they're now giving to manufacturers is you only need to release one phone, as opposed to you need to release a family of phones that accommodate a wide range of clients.
I mean, from my perspective, they've done that. If you do you got the Nexus 6, and if you do other stuff, then you got the Moto X, which is still coming from the same company. It's still running almost pure Android. And then from there, then you got the Nexus 5, which I don't know why they left that there. But so I mean, you are getting
leave it there. They discontinued the 5.
Oh, they did. Last I heard, I thought you could still get the 5. Okay.
No,
I didn't know.
I mean, officially the 5 is still listed on the Play Store, but it's sold out.
Okay.
It just had a price drop.
Okay.
I don't find a huge difference. But I have my Note 2 and I have my Nexus 7, original 2012 version. Now, granted, these are both a couple years old, but there's not a huge amount of difference. Once I reset my Nexus 7, which was getting really slow, and a factory reset absolutely brought it back to brand new. Battery life, no more crashes, perfect. And my Note 2, similar experience when they sent me a refurb. Basically, I had a not new, but new Note 2. There's not a whole lot of difference. There's
some
the
people
Sprint
find there's
bloatware.
a difference, though, Dan. I mean, some people just can't put a large 6-inch phone in their pockets.
I mean, as far as why there's a Nexus line anyway. Because I've never seen one in the wild.
Historically, there's a Nexus line because this was Google's proof of concept phone. This is what Google was saying each year is, this is our vision for what a phone should be.
What was the point of continuing the Nexus line when they own Motorola? Why didn't they just tell Motorola, here's the deal, you're going to do this?
Because they didn't want to be seen as playing favorites. Of course, this phone is from Motorola.
But they're not owned by Google anymore.
No,
Yeah,
but
they rotate, right? They rotate. They had to make sure the first few were not from Motorola, just for what Alan said. But it's fair. I mean, they've done each manufacturer. I don't think, has Samsung put one out yet? I know HTC has, and Asus, I think.
Freaking Galaxy
Nexus.
Oh, the
We
Galaxy
talking
Nexus?
about that.
All right.
The piece of garbage I always rail about.
Why they look up to me so, I have no idea.
The other
Because I
piece
actually
of
don't know.
garbage from Samsung that I always rail about. What was that, Dan? I'm sorry.
I was mocking. I was self-deprecating, humoring myself. I said why they look up to me so. I have no idea because I'm clueless. Okay, so Go
So
ahead.
really walking away from this, I'm more excited about battery life than anything. Now the only other question that I have on this thing is it? I haven't got a clear answer of if it's Qi charging or not. That's the only thing that I have not got a real clear answer on.
I haven't gotten a straight answer on
Um,
that either, but I think everyone I've been talking to says it's got to be.
what's
But
the
that is-
milliamps on the battery that you're praising?
Well, and so okay, so let's just say if it's not Qi charging. If it's not Qi charging, I have probably 5 to 6 chargers around here including in my car, that's also Qi charging. So that frustrates me. But then the question that I ask is, if I can charge my phone in 15 minutes and have it last 6 hours, do I really necessarily need to have all these Qi chargers anymore?
Yes,
Yes. Why so?
because it's still only 6 hours.
Well, I mean, if I'm in a hurry, so let's say I forget to charge my phone for a day and a half because the battery's so big.
And as I understand it, that 15-minute fast charging is a special fast charging mode. It's not you plug it into a USB device and it works fine.
No, it has to be that particular charger that goes with that particular
Right.
thing.
Is it something you
So-
shouldn't use on a regular basis? Like the Tesla superchargers are not recommended for.
No, you can use it on a regular basis. It is your charger that they're going to give you in the box. So it's the one that you're going to use. But just when you plug it up for 15 minutes, if you take it off, you have 6 hours of battery life before you need to do that again, essentially. So if you're in a hurry one day and you're stuck somewhere and you're like, you're at the airport and your battery's getting ready to die, and you got 30 minutes before your flight comes in, you plug that in, you're good for the flight, especially when you're going to be in airplane mode anyway, so you're going to get more than 6 hours. So, like, I question if it's necessary to actually have the Qi chargers.
I think it still will be,
You
because
still-
the key chargers are just infinitely more convenient.
Yeah, they
Even-
never mentioned it or anything. So,
Well, here's the other thing that I'm curious about is if it has an NFC chip. I didn't see that in the specs, but I also didn't look too carefully for it.
I don't know why they would have pulled that out after all this time. That's what brought me to Android.
Well, they would have pulled it out after all this time if for some reason they thought that there wasn't going to be any useful use for it.
Huh.
Just at the moment that there suddenly is a useful use for it again.
Well, Phone Arena, me and my buddy got into a big argument, and Phone Arena does say that it is Qi charging, and that it is, and that it does have NFC. Because we got into a big argument about that. So.
Okay.
So he's
I
saying
would be
that Phone Arena
surprised
is
if it
like
didn't,
that.
but I agree with you. I think the huge battery is a big win on this phone.
Yeah, I think that's more than anything. That and then the screen. I can settle for everything else. The screen. As long as Google Maps has enough RAM to let me be able to get driving directions while listening to music, I'm totally happy because I'm sick of that battle when I'm driving long distances.
Google Maps doesn't have enough RAM to get out of its own way.
What are the what's the milliamp per hour count on the battery?
3225, I believe.
3220.
What's so special about that? That my Note 2 is half an inch less screen size and 3100.
Yeah, but can you charge it up in 15 minutes?
No,
What's the battery life on your Note 2?
I don't know. Now it's not bad. You know, easily a day because it's a refurb, right?
When you say a day, do you mean 24 hours?
I
Or
don't.
do you mean 8?
No, I mean like from morning till night, but based on usage. I mean, I don't know.
Okay. This guy, the OnePlus One,
Mm-hmm.
battery is 3100 if I remember correctly.
And the screen size
Battery
is
life is in excess of 24 hours.
with heavy use or normal use.
Well, that's with normal use and me sleeping for 8 hours.
Yeah, mine got really, really bad, but it's that Android bloat that we talked about.
Here's a real good question for you, Alan. Is this Nexus 6 going to make you switch from your... No. So you're still sticking with your phone even with the Nexus 6 coming out.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm not going to fork over $600 whatever dollars.
So
Or-
if there was a free program where you could trade in your phone and with no extra cost get the Nexus 6, would you do it or would you keep your OnePlus One with no support?
With
Don't
no
forget that because
support.
Gilbert still hasn't gotten his phone. So I check with him every Monday before we start the show.
If I had the opportunity to trade this in for a Nexus 6 for no upgrade cost, I probably would.
I think this brings up this point, guys. I think that we're now at incremental improvements. I think that once like the iPhone, I don't know, the 4S or the 5S or whatever, and the Android, like about around KitKat or Jelly Bean, at that point, I think that the hardware, the batteries, the cameras, the software, the OS was pretty damn good, and they finally got it, and now we're not seeing like dramatic jumps. Like,
I disagree with you there, Dan, a little bit. Especially when it comes to battery life.
I would consider.
Go ahead, Kadeus.
I was gonna say that's one reason why I would consider this a dramatic jump, where we're going from what was it, 2200 milliamps? I don't even know what your last one was, but mine's just 2200 milliamps to now we're at 32.
that's a huge difference, but also the screen size is a dramatic change. The reason that the
Right,
Note
which is-
2 has a 3100 milliamp battery is because it's got a 5.5-inch screen, so it's a
Yeah,
trade-off.
but Dan, here's the thing. Even with the bigger screen, they've got a tremendous improvement in battery life.
Well, if the big thing to me is if I could charge my Note 2 in 15 minutes, that would be the most impressive spec over anything.
I think that's
So-
impressive. I think what's more impressive to me is that the battery life, even without that, lasts a full, lasts 24 hours under reasonable use.
Yeah, but the fast charging thing is the big deal. The whole point is this is supposed to be a mobile device, right? If it's a mobile device, why the F do I have to have it plugged into this stupid cable for hours and hours a day? It's
I
not a mobile
disagree that
device
that's-
when it's plugged into this umbilical cord.
Dan, I disagree that that's a big deal. I think it's a deal. I think it's useful, but all it does is get you 6 hours. It's a last ditch emergency charge thing. Whereas a full charge lasting you 24 hours, that's a big deal because that means you can actually use the thing for a whole day.
One day we're gonna have wireless charging, and you're just gonna enter your home, and all your stuff's gonna charge. And
We're
then,
almost there, Dan.
Then we're gonna have stories
Android
about
world
someone
doesn't have that already.
the ass end of somebody's jeans is going to just burst into flames, and it's going to be like some Stephen King novel, and we're all just going to drop like flies. It's going to be at the end with this wireless charging thing. Seriously, though, we're going to walk in our house, and all our stuff's going to charge. And then we're going to have truly mobile. It's not mobile if I have to plug it to a tethering cord. Or a
Well,
docking
you don't have
cord.
to do that with the Nexus 6. That's what's great about it.
Okay. So let's, Alan, can we move to the
You
Nexus
just plug it
9?
down on your desk and it charges.
That's badass.
So moving on, should I replace this Nexus 7 with the Nexus 9?
That's the
and that-
second gen, right?
This is the second gen with LTE. I
Okay.
looked at the price. It's $600 for the 9, but the way I use this now is just around the house. It was great because it's in my back pocket. I could take it everywhere with me, but I mean, I started leaving it at home because I didn't use it that much. So as nice as go ahead, Alan.
You said something a moment ago, and I missed it, and it suddenly processed. How much is the Nexus line going for?
With LTE data in there, it's $599. So
Most
it's
people would just. Most people.
It's cheaper than a Nexus 6.
It is.
And no contract.
Remember,
no, it
this
has a
was always cheaper than the Nexus. The tablet was always cheaper than the phone. Remember?
How much is the?
I believe you.
Don't the non-LTE versions vastly out? Probably because of price point, but also because of use case. I mean, most people have a phone, so they don't necessarily need LTE, and that's a compromise they're willing to accept, where they can use their large phone, their Nexus 6 phone, or their Samsung or whatever Apple iPhone, in the wild, and then when they're at home on their couch, I don't have any need for an LTE tablet unless you were like a salesperson or just rich like Kadeus is. So,
Or you don't want to carry your phone around with you.
I mean,
LTE
is he
is
making
great in the
phone calls?
airport,
Oh my
Dan.
God.
What'd you say?
Are you making phone calls with that thing? Is it a
He is,
When you're
phone?
sitting in the airport, Dan, you don't have to deal with freaking Wi-Fi's and passwords and $5.99 for 1 hour and all that junk. You don't have to do that
Are you
because you
doing
have
the
it built
whole?
in. This is not a phone, Dan. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying. You're making phone calls with it. You could, right?
But
Especially with the
what's the
Hangouts
difference
app.
between that and this?
What's the difference? This has a bigger screen. This
So
has,
that's the only difference.
has a
So it's
bigger
a phone.
That's literally the only difference, and so that's why I'm asking myself. Plus, I don't use this that much. This is more my Android TV remote now, and everything else in there, other than me going anywhere. So I'm going. As great as that tablet looks, amazing, and they even put the speakers on the front. So it's the HTC style M8 sound coming out of this tablet. That's really good when you're on the go.
That's the
But
biggest
the
thing
question
they
is,
need
they're
to
actually saying
improve.
they're actually comparing it to the new tablet that you just purchased, Dan. They're
That's
saying
the-
that it's better than that one.
That's the biggest thing they need to improve is the audio on these tablets. I can't believe it's
They
like
have.
it's like the microphone on every single freaking camera sucks. I mean, like video camera, like even real TV cameras. The built-in microphone sucks, and the speaker quality has traditionally sucked on every tablet I've ever seen, except my mom's Kindle Fire HD was pretty badass, and this new thing that I got Hope, one of my sales reps, that thing that Alan recommended that I bought, the NVIDIA Shield, which is just amazing, although it randomly shuts down. You have to hold the thing to start it again.
But
But
Dan,
the
that's
speakers
a-
are
you're
good.
saying you
But
wish
even
they would
though they're
improve it,
dramatically
they
better
have.
than every other tablet, they still suck compared to a real speaker. Even like
Dan.
shitty Dell computer speakers, it's worse than that.
Dan, you missed it. They have. That's what we're talking about. It's improved now.
Improved.
HTC.
Is it good or it's improved from the shitty one before?
Okay, so
That's
this
difference.
isn't HTC One M8, right? You can be outside, watching a YouTube video, and the planes are taking off, and you can still hear it with this.
You could even watch Google Plus Week, our other program, which is on every Friday at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. You could watch that on your. Sorry, go ahead. I just had to sneak that one in.
If you want to hear that, you can, even with a plane taking off in the background. So they've taken this exact same boom sound technology, as they called it, and they put it in this tablet. They're bigger speakers than what's in here in the tablet. So yes, it's gonna have dramatically better sound. So what you're saying sucks isn't a problem anymore. It's been resolved thanks to HTC. My only fear with the HTC tablet is the last time they made a tablet was the freaking Jetstream. The last time I remember them making a tablet, and that was the worst tablet I've ever used in the history of tablets. And so it makes me wonder about this tablet. Like, I want to get my hands on it just to see if it's what it is, but I'm definitely happy about the speakers because that's, like you said, it used to be that all tablets suck. But
See,
now they put the boom sound in there, we're good.
now Cadeas is not a good use case scenario because he's largely a vegetarian. So when he hits the can, it's real quick. He doesn't spend enough time in the can to fully evaluate how good a tablet can be. Just so you know. I had to troll you a
So
little
are
bit
you going
there.
to buy this tablet, Alan?
Probably not,
Why not?
because I have no need to shell out $600 for a tablet right now.
Well,
Do
but
you
what's the
have a tablet
Wi-Fi
right
version one? How much is that one?
I think it's right at 4.
I have no need to shell out $400 for a tablet right now.
I think 300 is impulse buy. 4 you have to think about. 6 is like,
No,
the
300 I
average
have no. 100 is impulse buy.
well, I'm a rich newspaper publisher, so maybe.
See, 100 I could just roll a $100 bill right off my money clip. That's not a
I'm
problem.
a master of a dying industry. That and $3 will get you being a newspaper
400,
publisher,
yes,
and $3 will
for
get you a
the,
cup of coffee at Starbucks.
400 for the 16 gig. For the 16 gig, it's 400.
Does it have an SD slot?
No.
No.
Yeah. So
Alan said no.
I still don't understand why they don't do that. There should always be an SD slot.
Now, Alan, you tell me, are you a little disappointed by the Nexus? Wow, I don't even know the name of it now. The Nexus Player? Uh-oh.
I got to do
What-
the whole full screen
What is the
mode here.
right way to express my opinions about the Nexus player?
You could care less about it?
No, I just think it's a dead on arrival product.
Why is that?
It's not even as good as the ADT-1, which they handed out. It has questionable features over a Chromecast. The application support doesn't look like it's going to be any better than what we have now, and that's pathetic. The only thing good about it is it's $99.
Which is
I'm
the same
sorry.
price as Apple TV.
I'm sorry, it also looks like a flattened Nexus Q.
All right, so that means it's going to be dead.
I use my ADT-1. I enjoy it. It's okay. I think it needs
Whoa,
a major
you
UI
enjoy it?
overhaul.
You
What?
enjoy it?
It's better than playing DVDs.
Okay. I'm glad I heard you say you enjoy the Android TV. So
Better than playing DVDs. I think the Netflix application is ass backwards.
that's Netflix's fault.
No, it's Google's fault.
How is that Google's fault? Google didn't have anything to do with the Nexus app or the Netflix app.
No. Here's the problem. It's an app. This device has applications, which is a mistake.
Got it.
I
But I don't know.
shouldn't
I
have
don't
to
know
go-
what they should name it.
Here's the thing. I shouldn't have to start the Nexus application, select my profile, and then see my playlist. The playlist should just be on the freaking home screen.
It is.
It's
In
not.
a mix of everything else. It
It's
makes
not.
recommendations. Ours does.
Based from Netflix?
Yes, it pulls from everything. Netflix, Plex, Google Play, YouTube, and something else I can't think of what it is
All
right
I
now.
ever see on my recommendation list is YouTube.
Then you need to use some of the other things more frequently.
I use Netflix constantly. I never use YouTube on this.
Interesting. I don't know then, because literally Charlie's stupid videos be popping up, and I'm like, oh God, please just sign out of Netflix. And I don't want to see that when I sit down, which is an issue that you brought up last time.
Yes.
Like when I sit in front of the TV, I shouldn't have to see Charlie's stuff and vice versa. So
I was just talking to my mom about that. Like when your nieces or your grandkids get on the on Netflix, and all of a sudden you sit down and you want to watch something, and Dora the Explorer, is populating your suggested feed. I'm looking here at the Nexus Player stuff. What is their competition? What is?
Apple TV and themselves.
Roku's the big competitor. Apple TV is.
But it looks like they're going. I mean, they're highlighting the gaming aspect here.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you remember that device.
Oh,
I think more people will remember the than the Nexus Player. I'm just
gaming.
throwing
Ooh,
it out there.
let's go see just how many games there are.
4. Now, this is what's interesting, Alan. Before you start bashing it, this is what's interesting. If you go to the Play Store on the web browser, and you go and you find games on that, and it goes on there and it plays. So there, me and Charlie have I shouldn't say emulators, but we have emulators that run on there just fine that we couldn't install from the Play Store on the device, but on the web, all those things are available. So there are many apps that you can put. You hate apps in this scenario, but there are many apps that you can put on your Android TV if you do it through the web browser. If you go to play.google.com and do it from there. And I think it's just a loophole they haven't noticed. So.
Well, I think it's a UI screw up. I think it's a gross. I don't know. I think it's a gross misunderstanding of how the device should be used. I still maintain they've done major UI screw ups with this device. But
Is it better than your Q?
no,
No? How could you say that?
pretty easy for me to say that. The Q is awesome. This is.
This is the Q with more options. What are you talking about?
It's not the Q with more options.
What options are missing from this that was on the Q?
This.
We have that. It's called the Android app. Android TV
Have
app.
you used that piece of extra.
It works fine on my devices. Maybe you need to get another device.
No. Okay, let's look at just how wonderful this application is.
Android app of the week.
Okay,
Been a
remote
while.
control.
Remote control.
Hang on a second, because it's having trouble finding my device. Okay, that's it. That is lame ass.
Okay, but there's one thing that you're looking at all this.
Alan
You're looking
said,
at all this extra
just-
stuff,
just
Alan.
to
Let me simplify
note the
this for you.
time, Alan
There's
said
a blue
lame ass.
button at the top, Alan. There's a blue button at the top. You press that. You press that little blue circle. Just press that, and it changes your life, just like it did on your phone.
You mean the voice one?
Yes. Press
No.
that.
Lame
and it
ass.
changes your life.
Lame
Lame.
ass.
Ass.
Ghetto.
So Alan totally hates Android TV, and he's no longer getting the Nexus player.
No, I'm sorry. Compared to the Nexus Q, which had a revolutionary concept of how media systems should be used, this is 10-year-old design. There is nothing about Android TV that doesn't heavily borrow from designs dating back 10 years. Unlike the Q and the Chromecast, which were actually trying to advance our media systems.
You do have a point. You do have a point on that.
I mean, the UI that I'm staring at right now is right in front of me. Okay? The UI that I am staring at right now bears a striking resemblance to cable systems going back 10 or more years.
Let me be the propagandist for Google here. The Nexus player is on a solid footing because it's 10 years old. It looks like
mean,
a
like,
a
we were
freaking
trying to do.
PlayStation 2 or, you know, except smaller, you know, so there's that.
I get
I
what
do say that I like the Google TV interface. There are a lot of things about the Google TV layout that I like a lot better. Maybe I'm just getting used to the Android TV interface now, but originally when I sat down in front of it, I had a big issue with the way YouTube looked on Android TV and the way it looked on Google TV. I think it was more organized on Google TV than it is on Android TV. I think stuff's too big and in your face. I mean, I don't see why they need to make it that big. I understand lean back experience, but I'm not sitting in China trying to watch my TV. I'm in my living room.
I agree. The fact that the recommended movies, literally, or the recommended shows, take up a third of the screen
That's my issue with it.
when I have no interest whatsoever in anything they're recommending 90% of the time.
You need to fix your Google profile. You need to be serious that those recommendations are right. Oh, that's the other app, TED. It's TED, Plex, Google Play stuff, Netflix, and TED. Those are the ones that show up. And you just have to start watching stuff, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on YouTube. And then literally they throw up stuff all the time. I'm just walking by the TV and I'll be like, oh, let me see that. And I go and sit down and watch this little thing because I saw something on that recommended throw.
But looking right now at what it's recommending to me, something about the comment on YouTube, that's vaguely interesting.
What are you looking at, Alan? Just to
I
clarify.
am looking at my recommended list on my Android TV right now.
Okay.
Which is always, just to let everybody know, it's always front and center whenever your screensaver or whatever you want to call it is not on. So it's always front and center.
It's the first
recommended
thing that
list.
shows up, and it's bigger than the freaking app icons, which are
It is.
issues of themselves. Okay. The second thing is a YouTube video, official Call of Duty Warfare gameplay launch trailer. I have never played Call of Duty.
Yeah, your profile's just screwed. You need to go watch some more stuff on
The
YouTube.
third one is recommending on Play Movies and TV, Live, Die, Repeat. Then The Walking Dead, again on Play TV, Movies and TV. Then Transformers Age of Extinction. And it just reshuffled everything. So I still have The Comet, Call of Duty, X-Men Days of Future Past, The Walking Dead, Live, Die, Repeat, American Horror Story, and Transformers.
Sounds like some of that they're throwing up in front of you to get you to rent it too.
Probably.
Like that movie, one of the newer movies you just listed. I have that too, and I don't know, like, it was something I was interested in, but I don't know why they threw that one at me. So I
Right,
think
now-
the fact that you have that too tells me that they're throwing it in front of you to get you to rent it or buy it.
Now, two things. Admittedly, some of them in the past have been relevant to YouTube videos that I've watched. That's
Right.
fine. That's good. Why it doesn't use my YouTube, my list of YouTube watch later, I don't know. None of my watch laters ever show up here.
Yeah, mine's don't either, actually.
In fact, as far as I can tell, there's no way to get to that watch later list from here, either to watch something or to add something to it.
You can't add anything to your watch later, but you can go in. You can go in and watch from your watch later, but you got to go within the YouTube app.
Oh, so I've got to go into you. See, this
Right.
is the problem I have.
Right.
Starting apps is stupid.
This is kind of a fair criticism that Craig makes. Craig Ship from our Google Plus
Well,
Week
Apple
show
does the same thing. Apple
about
does the same thing.
doing stuff half-ass and never finishing it and then moving on
No,
to the
no,
next
no,
thing.
no. See, that's a bad example because Apple TV is half-assed.
Apple TV is the same thing. You go within this one, let's say, room, and that's it. So if you want to watch YouTube, you go in the YouTube room, and that's where you are.
Why
And
can't
that
the
one- actually,
teams?
that one's
Why
watered
can't the
down and
teams
flat.
communicate? There's a lot of stuff that Google does that's badass. Like, I've like when I do a Google search for something, often the ads adjacent to the Google results are superior results than the actual native search results. Although the native search results are better than any other search engine. What's up, Microsoft? And on my Android app for Google, that stories, and then you click more stories, and almost every single story is something I'm interested in. They're really, really good at that. But the other stuff, it's like that one part of the Android app is great, but then the other part is showing me like sports scores from teams I couldn't care less about. I have no interest at all in. And so they're missing that. But when on the actual stories part, and then you click more stories, that's nailing it. I mean, like 90% batting average. Amazingly, it's my number one aggregator. I've been bragging about this or praising them for this. So I don't understand why these different teams can't share algorithms, because like certain ones get it right and certain ones suck. And I don't know why they can't figure out, like, why don't we do whatever's working here on this? But this must be harder than we can imagine, because there are so many, like Netflix is better than Amazon Prime at suggesting videos. Amazon, which is so good at so many things, if you're buying photographic equipment, if you're trying to buy accessories, B&H is so much better at saying, here's a list of accessories
It's more
that
than
are
just
better than,
recommendations, though, Dan. When it comes to some of this, each app wants to do it its own way to give it its own look and feel, and that's great when you're talking about applications. But when you're talking about the big picture, then it starts to fall apart. It's like when I think it was TBS started its shows at 5 minutes past the hour. That's great, but it locked you into watching TBS.
it was a smart play. It was a risky gamble, but a smart play. And then if everything else sucked, you knew you could always go to TBS and catch something from the beginning, back when we sat on the couch to watch TV and had to do it on their terms.
But it also meant that once you got to the end of the show, you couldn't switch channels because you already missed the beginning of another show.
Ted Turner had some game.
Anyway, there are other issues with the Nexus Player. It's weaker than the ADT one. It's
It is.
missing some features
It
that
is.
the ADT one has. It looks like it's a slower processor even.
It is.
And I think the real surprise is that it's an Intel processor,
Yes, it is.
which now means that game developers have a seriously tough time porting games for it.
Well, if all the
So it
same
makes
game
me wonder
developers
if-
are the ones who did the Google Plus games, they're going to be really pissed off still, and are not going to be eager to.
No, because these are Android developers.
What
In
it makes
theory.
me wonder, though, it makes me wonder if the Nexus Player was a totally separate project that just kind of got whittled into this Android TV at kind of the last minute. That's what I'm wondering.
Is this
Maybe,
just a
but-
game-centric device that's meant to say, like, we have all these great Android games, and let's create a PlayStation or Xbox
But
type thing.
Dan, here's the problem. When you're talking most applications, you can run it on just about any Android device. When you're talking games, however, games are written in a lower level code than Java. And because of that, they're platform specific. So you can't just say, oh, that game that runs on a Snapdragon processor is going to run fine on an Intel processor, because it's not.
But we can assume that they've pushed out demo units, prototypes to the developers, right?
Yeah, but
That's what we're comparing it to. The prototype is the ADT1 that everybody started coding their stuff on, and so now you release this Nexus Player. That's why I think there was some separate stuff going on here. I think the Nexus Player was coming about, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, Android Lollipop, come over here, Android TV,
All right.
we need it all in one.
That's a
So-
great transition. And by the way, you're doing a fantastic job transitioning, Kadeas. Is closing question on this topic: is there going to be a line wrapped around Best Buy to get the Nexus Player?
It's already sold out, Dan.
That doesn't mean anything.
Sold out, or is it not available?
It says sold out on the site.
That doesn't
See,
mean
I've
anything.
heard
I mean,
that
they
it-
could have
But
built
we all know
75.
it passed FCC certification and somehow.
Yeah.
I didn't know how they started selling it without FCC certification. That was beyond me. I don't understand how that mistake was ever made.
I don't think it is, and I think that's the problem. But the ADT1's not FCC certified.
Right, but it's not being sold either.
True.
Every single computer you've ever had a local computer store build for you is not FCC certified. But Google doesn't normally tread in those waters. They
Why
have
do you
deeper
think that was
pockets.
why do you think that was on purpose, Alan?
What did I say was on purpose? I said
The,
No certification?
the certification.
I forgot what I said.
Alan
Okay.
had a Dan moment just then. Rare.
Now, if I had a Dan moment, I'd spend 2 minutes talking about how I forgot what I said.
That was a dig just then.
Yep.
Next up is Lollipop, Lollipop, oh, lolly, lolly. We haven't had a YouTube copyright dig strike lately, so I thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, Android 5.0 Lollipop. I thought it would be named whatever, wild speculation. I was wrong. So it's called Lollipop. So, Kadeas, what are your thoughts on Android 5.0 Lollipop? And is
Dan,
this
does
like...
this mean you're going to be changing the logo in the upper corner?
Ooh.
It took me a year last time. Until you, I think,
And he
trolled me.
still don't have KitKat on his phone.
I think you actually, in front of Vic and Dotra, embarrassed me about that.
Who?
If I'm not mistaken, Alan did.
Oh.
He said, like, damn, maybe you should change the logo. And I was horrifically shamed.
Actually, I remember that.
So anyway, what's the deal?
Alan? Are you excited about Lollipop?
What are
I
the
am-
what are the key things? Explain what the key things are that you think are like OMG moments. In your gentle way.
I like the look. I like the look of it. I'm a fan of material design. I know Alan's not. I'm a fan of material design. So
It's not that I'm not a fan. I am cautious about it. I'm not sure it really gets us all that much.
well, that's literally all that I know and care about Lollipop right now.
Well, that's the
Exactly.
funny thing is that's all anybody seems to know or care about Lollipop, and yet that's really the least interesting thing about it.
Oh, I know it is. I just haven't had my hands on it yet. So
Well, neither have I.
I wasn't interested in the developer preview. I wasn't tearing up my favorite phone to have stuff break. So,
Yeah, I didn't have a phone that was capable of running the developer preview.
no.
I think there are a number of other things that at least show some promise. I like the new notifications; those sound really interesting, including the home screen, including the lock screen notifications and the updates to the lock screen widgets. Those show a lot of promise.
The notifications did change. I've been wanting those actually. Yeah.
Actually, it's not just that it changed; it's a major change. It
Yeah.
is a radical change almost. And it's going to be really interesting to see how those work out. So that's interesting. I've been reading all about notifications this week. I'm curious to see what Project Volta actually does, and if any, how how that fits into everything. So Project Volta is a way to improve battery life through the software, let third parties have better monitoring tools for it. We've already got some pretty good monitoring tools. Let's make them better and give some default ones. Those are the things I hear most people talking about so far. They provided a small list, which is smaller than the 5,000 API changes they talked about. But those are the interesting ones I've seen so far. How about you, Cadeus?
Material design. That's it. That's all. Material design. I forgot about the notifications. I'm excited about that. And yeah, just how it functions on my new Nexus 6. So that's really what I'm interested in. My buddy actually brought up a real good perspective on material design too. Although I don't remember it now that I started talking about it. So it was a long explanation, but I lost the point.
This is the most lackluster. I mean, 5.0 is a major upgrade. This is the most lackluster endorsement of a new major Android upgrade. It's prettier. I mean, that's it?
Well, considering that that's been one of the biggest criticisms of Android.
That it's not pretty?
Yeah.
Yeah, Android was horrible, Dan.
I know, but since like
Ice Cream Sandwich, it got better, but now this is their next overhaul. Well,
this is what I'm talking about. It's incremental stuff. There's nothing like causing me to leap out of my chair and race to buy the new thing.
Don't get me wrong. I'm so on material design, but material design is not an incremental change. It's a major jump.
I'm just saying that I have a Note 2. It's off contract. I could go in there and buy whatever, you know.
But then this is the
I'm
software.
just not motivated.
So we never
it's
have
the first
to pay
time
for
I
the
haven't been motivated. Every other time I was like, oh, I can't wait to get rid of this freaking Motorola Photon or whatever piece of shit I had. Although that was actually hardware-wise a fantastic phone. I still use it as a teleprompter thing because my Note 2 won't fit in my teleprompter. But
okay, so here's the thing. I just pulled up the Lollipop 5.0 list of new features from Android. That's android.com/version/lollipop-5.0 if anybody wants to play along.
I'm sure we all have it bookmarked.
So features they list: material design, which we've been beating to death, notifications, and the notification controls are actually a lot more. So it's things like you can set time periods for notifications. You know, if you don't want notifications in the middle of the night, they won't. Do that for priority notifications only. Set when phone calls can come through. A lot more control on your part and on the application developer's part. Radically, major improvements for battery. Security. That's something we talked about in the past that we forgot about. The fact that it's going to default to encrypted mode. But more than that, it's also things like you'll be able to pair it with a device so that if your phone sits next to your computer, they can unlock each other. One of the things that that they've had issues with over time is device sharing. So while tablets can be shared with more than one person, phones couldn't. Now phones can be shared, and even more interesting, this is something that I saw somebody mention today, is that you can pin an application before you hand it to someone. So if you want to say something like, hey, check out this post on Facebook, you lock it to Facebook, you hand them the phone. They can't
go and look at your pictures real quick or something.
Right, go and look at your pictures, go and look at your bank account, go and look at whatever. So you can quickly lock an application. New quick settings, which sounds like was stolen from the OnePlus One, from CyanogenMod, which is no surprise because they've taken a lot of stuff from CyanogenMod over the years, and that's a good thing. That's why CyanogenMod's there. Improvements on networking, improvements on BTLE, there's an even interesting one of the changes that I'm looking forward to actually is that if you don't have an internet connection, even if you have a Wi-Fi connection, it won't try to use the Wi-Fi. So in the past, if it says, okay, I've got a Wi-Fi signal, it'll use the Wi-Fi even if that Wi-Fi isn't connected to the internet yet.
Yeah.
So that's a great change. I like that. We're going to be using the new runtime. Because of that, we're going to be getting the 64-bit support. Lots of improvements on all of that front. You know, the usual better media, yada, 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 yada. New frame formats, capture full resolution frames at 30 frames per second, etc., etc., etc. OK Google will now work even if the screen is off. So increased support for that, which we first saw on the Moto X.
That's a whole thing. You know, today I was in the shower, and my phone has this. I don't think it's an Android thing. I think it's a Samsung thing. But you can correct me here. I can say answer or reject if a phone call.
Samsung.
Okay, so
That's a Samsung.
I had the TV on, and there was a game on, right? A football game, whatever it was. And so I'm in the shower, and one person calls, it answers the phone automatically, right? Because you're supposed to say answer, and then it automatically assumes you're driving. You can say answer or reject. I always enjoy being able to say reject when Craig calls, if I can't take the call. And then another person, I was getting out of the shower, dried off, you know, getting dressed, and all of a sudden I hear someone like, Dan, Dan, Dan. So I come out, the phone had answered itself. I was like, what's up? He's like, yeah, I was listening to all these numbers, because they were talking about the sports thing, right, on the TV. So the OK Google thing working with the screen off could, I guess, I don't know, I could see, I guess it's not the same as answering a phone call, because the worst you could get is some crazy search.
Well, Charlie has the Moto X, and he has been using that. That was his phone of choice here until recently, and I never hear it make a mistake. That's one thing it doesn't do is make a mistake. So I think that's a Samsung issue that you haven't. Now my OK Googles, they always tend to get set off, but they're not voice trained, so not like the Moto X. So.
Okay. One of the things, Alan, just to get really off topic briefly, you said that encryption would be by default on, and I don't know if you really, I guess we talked about this, but we keep hearing these law enforcement types talk about how this is such an evil thing, that pedophile serial killers with Ebola are going to use, you know, these phones as their phone of choice. Are you seeing anyone who sympathizes with the argument that encryption shouldn't be standard on these phones?
No, because it's a bogus argument.
Because they've abused what power
No,
they
because
had, or because it's a bogus argument?
Because it's a bogus argument. They keep tossing up these straw men and claiming that this is going to be what's going to happen without any evidence that this is what's going to happen.
Okay. What do you think, Cadeas? Do you see a clamor call from your friends? Like, you know, we really should, as soon as possible, you know, make sure that we don't have any encryption on these phones, so that the FBI can, you know, when I sell crack, tap into my phone or whatever the hell they're after, I guess. And there's the obvious argument, you know, when they're trying to find some bad guy, you want them to be able to have tools, but then it seems like they've abused those tools by this blanket surveillance of U.S. citizens, which seems outrageous. And that's what it's almost like I want them to have the tools to get the bad guys, but they've really overextended their reach, and so it's kind of like a cyclical thing. I don't know how to describe it. It's like we need some kind of balance. Like, what's reasonable is fine, but my God, do you really need to know every time I take a dump? You know what I mean? At some point, I don't know. I think that overreach has caused this. All right. Do we have anything specific that we want to?
I just wanted to clarify. I didn't know that the play.google.com had put up a page for the Nexus 6. Usually they don't do that until the day of, so I was shocked they did that. But we were able to get some clarifications from it. The video is 4K at 30 frames a second on the Nexus 6. So that's one thing. The front-facing camera is 2 megapixels, and then there's HD video conferencing. And then there is key charging. So they do have that listed there. And what did I say? Qi charging. He's going to get me for that now. And then
Qi charging.
Me and my friend got into a big argument about Qi versus Qi.
Qi charging. That's the whole thing.
I think that was. Oh, and there is NFC, Alan. so worries are put to rest.
So you can use all of the Google wallets simultaneously. You can use them all.
That's good because there's actually a new NFC feature in Android 5.
Yeah, I would have hoped that they would have left that in there. So.
And just to be one of the gang, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get to my T-shirt here because these guys, we want to complete our Devo look, right?
It took him an entire hour to realize this.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and do the T-shirt.
The one final topic that we have to talk about tonight is probably the most important thing about Android 5 Lollipop, and that's the statue.
Oh yeah, the statue. That was a topic. That was an official topic. I'm going to T-shirt for these guys so they don't feel bad. I did the whole collar thing. So go ahead. Tell us about the statues.
So the statue has been unveiled. It's an android holding a lollipop, making a peace symbol out of another android on his hand. It's pretty cute. The thing I found most interesting is they seem to have moved the garden. It's no longer outside the building that it used to be. All of them have been moved about 2 blocks away.
You can just move them?
They got them there in the first place.
Who knew? Okay. Is there some hidden meaning?
I don't know. I don't know if it means that the Android team has moved, if it means that they got tired of having their workplace a tourist attraction. I don't know.
See, this means that they're going to dump
Android
because when they moved some Google Plus team members to expand the team, all the tech blogs said that this is the end, obviously the end of Google Plus, right? And it's shutting down any day now. So this must mean that we should covet our existing Android devices because there probably will be no more of them. Because clearly, if they're moving the statues, then that's a sign.
Clearly.
At least that's what Alex Jones said on InfoWars. I'm just kidding. Please don't sue me, Alex Jones. Anything exciting coming up?
He's gonna sue you. He's gonna come find you and stand outside your house.
That's okay. See, I've been listening long enough to know I have lots of gold and storable foods and a bunch of guns in my basement, in my bomb shelter. So I'm ready when Janet Reno comes to try to get my shit. I'm gonna break bad on him. Okay, so do we have any exciting stuff coming up Friday, Alan, for Google Plus Week?
I'm sure we do, but I have no idea what it is.
All right, so I will do an assist here. I will look at our Flipboard magazine. You can follow our. Is anyone else offended that our Flipboard magazine has like 3 times the number of readers that our show has viewers? So our Flipboard magazine.
You should put the show on the magazine.
I know. So our Flipboard magazine here, we've got lots of stuff here. Please check it out on Flipboard. It's pretty cool. The BBC is going to publish the Right to Be Forgotten removals list. Or BBC says is the BBC is going to do that. Google versus Amazon. Google Plus now has more than 2 billion accounts in a little over 3 years. And really interesting stuff. Les Moonves, CBS is going to release a streaming service on the heels of HBO's announcement that they're going to do the same thing. So we're seeing these giant media companies jump to the direct-to-consumer model.
Didn't we talk about that Friday already, Dan?
Did we?
Yeah.
Let's see. It says 3 days ago, and That would have been about 3 days. So maybe we did.
At any rate, we'll probably talk about something Friday night,
Yeah.
8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific on Google Plus Week.
And I hope you like our new look. We're all white T-shirts all the time. On our Android week. All right, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. My name is Dan McDermott. Thanks to our panelists tonight, Alan Furstenberg and Kadeus Kalut in New York and California, respectively. We have 2 programs. One is Google Plus Week, which is every Friday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And this program, Our Android Week, which when my computer works and when Kadeus is not on the phone, is at 9 Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Kadeus is doing like six-figure deals, so we got to, give him some space. And we thank you very much for watching and commenting. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Android week. Peace. Lollipop.